I'd like to wish you all a very good morning. It's a beautiful sunny day. And we are delighted to have Ann Wills back for a third session with Enlightened Films. And I noticed on the link that John sent out with the Zoom link, also there's a link to more information about Enlightened Films. And I encourage you to look at that because it's an interesting organization. So welcome back, Ann. Ann is the chair and professor of religious studies at Davidson College. She's also a Davidson grad, got a Master of Divinity at Yale and her PhD at Duke. She wrote a book, co-authored a book about Billy Graham called Billy Graham, American Pilgrim, and is currently working on Ruth Bell Graham. So we'll look forward to that, Ann. And we welcome you back for the third time.
Thanks, Lynette. Thanks, everybody. It's great to be here and good to see you all popping in, and glad that you're joining again today, or if this is your first time, then I'm glad to see you. We're going to do a little warm up today because one of the exercises we're going to do later requires you to be able to use your chat function in Zoom. So I'm going to share you'll just bear with me for a second. Let me get my slide going. And we'll do this. Where did you go?
What does that mean for you? More money?
I'm so sorry. I'm having a little bit of a distraction going on this morning. All right, here we go. Make sure I share my sound. So we are. All right, so here we are. It's the first Sunday in the season of Lent. And while we are, well, let me just do this first. Let's test our abilities to find the chat. So if I can, let me hide these. Let's move these around. Sorry. Okay. So I would like for you to, as a way of expressing your state of mind this morning, I think I need to pick one of these for myself. If you could, in the chat of Zoom, type the number for the bolo that you are today. Whoops. This is a friendly dog who has found its way onto the internet. So we are using Bolo's expressions to kind of take a temperature on how we are today.
And so do we send this to you or to everybody?
In the chat, it will go to everybody. If you don't adjust it, yeah, send it to everyone. It defaults to everyone. Oh, sorry, keep jumping ahead of myself. So when everybody's had a chance to oh, let's see how we're doing here. So let's get back here. So now we can kind of see how everybody is doing. I'll move these out of your way. Okay. Okay. Now, John, does Missy say that she's a 2, or are you saying that she's a 2? Because that could be an important distinction. He's maintaining a judicious silence. But there's a lot of 1s out here. Okay.
And I pointed at Missy, but she's a 2. Check it out.
Hmm? You have to come and look.
I have a hard time believing that Misty is a 2, but let's see. Are there any 4s that I need to look out for this morning? Just checking. 6s, yeah, I kind of am identifying with 6s. And by the end of this, you may all be 9s. All right. Well, the good news is then that people, for the most part, seem to be attuned to the use of the chat. So if you have questions about that, you can also just raise your hand, and Megan or I will help you navigate the chat function. All right, my friends, we're gonna move on to the next more serious issue, which is I want you to know about a speaker. Some of you may know about this already, a speaker who will be giving a talk tomorrow night. And I can also put this information in the chat for you. Dr. Hillary Green has come to Davidson for the year from the University of Alabama, and tomorrow she's giving a talk. I've heard a version of it before, and I can't recommend her highly enough. She is a brilliant historian who is working now with Davidson students in the Davidson archives about enslaved people who worked on the campus and had served various roles on campus, and how they have been commemorated in the archives. But her earlier work is a similar project that she did at the University of Alabama, and it's fascinating. So I will encourage you to attend that. Of course, it's on Zoom. Whoop. And I will try to get this link. Shoot, I'll get the link into the chat. My technology is not cooperating. It's free, of course, but you have to pre-register so that you can have the Zoom link. All right, somebody's chatting something. Perfect. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate it. Great. All right, so the link to that is in the chat, and you'll be asked to just enter your name and your email, and then from then on you'll be good to go. All right, so let's get down to business. What I want us to do today is, I want to hide these. And what we're gonna watch today is a film that is based on a pretty long passage in John, the Gospel of John. And it is not the passage for today's sermon. So I kind of I've been trying to kind of take a cue from what's going on in worship on these various Sundays. This is, as I said, this is not the passage that I think Peter is preaching today. He's not preaching on this passage, but I think that there are some connections to the passages that are being read in worship today. So as usual, I would love for us to try to get this where you all can see it. I wonder, Megan, is there a way to put the, maybe I can do this. If I put in the chat the link to the slideshow, is that a way that you all can get to this presentation so that it's a big passage? And the way that my screen is behaving this morning, I'm not able to show it to you and see you all at the same time, which I would really rather do.
I believe so.
So I've put my slideshow into y'all's chat. So if you click on that, you should be able to see the presentation and just skip down to this slide.
Did you go into chat and do that?
No, I did not. I'm going down here.
And we can see, I mean, I can see it like it is.
Can you see it okay? My controls aren't in your way and my,
Not right now.
Yeah, no, we
Okay.
can see it.
okay, perfect, good. Well, then that's all we need. Perfect. Thank you, Susan, for letting me know that. All right. Well, what we're going to do is, as we've done in weeks past, if we could have a volunteer who enjoys reading, and if somebody would volunteer to read this for us, and those of us who are not reading, we can close our eyes. We're going to really just use our ears to hear the reading, and then we can kind of debrief a little bit after that. So who would like to be our first reader? I'll give you a hint at what's to come.
I'll do it, Ann.
You can.
Great,
because
thank
we
you,
got
Cecil.
Stuff on top of the page.
So Jesus came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water."
Thank you. Thank you, Cecil.
Sure.
Let's just very quickly, before you have a chance to even think much, words or phrases that strike your ear.
Do not share things in common. The Jews don't
Yeah.
share anything in common with us.
Yeah. There's a real strong understanding. Yeah.
Water versus living water.
Uh-huh. Neat. Other thoughts? Let's hear some more.
Eternal life.
Give me a drink.
Mm. hear a couple more.
Greater than our ancestor Jacob.
Is this the theological source for the idea of a bucket list?
There is one in every crowd, is there not? Bucket and not needing a bucket. Like, I'm tired of schlepping this bucket. Give me something I don't need a bucket for.
Samaritan woman.
But those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty.
Mhm.
That I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Mm.
Yeah. Can we have another volunteer to read again? And let's just, again, like we've not heard it before. Let's listen again. Anybody volunteer to read?
And I will.
Thank you, Susan.
So Jesus came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria?" Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water."
Okay. How about this time? Did you hear something different?
Yeah, this is Pidge.
Hey, Pidge.
Way back in memory, going back to Disciple, I think there is something significant about it being noon, whether it was the hottest part of the day and she was there alone.
Good.
But I can't remember the details of why that was important. So there were just the two of them at the well, where normally I think there would be a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and part of it was that the other women would have come at another time. So she was going by herself in part because she had been shunned by others.
Yeah, this is, I love this passage, this whole chunk. It's a really big passage. And so I've only given you a very short piece of it, but Mary and Pidge are both alluding to what happens next that we can talk about in a second. But I had missed that before too, Pidge, that it's noon. Seems like a terrible time to go because of heat. Because there might be other things that one needs to be attending to at that time of day. I don't know. And it is just the two of them. Yeah. Other things that struck you. Yeah, Pam.
This sounds heretical, but I was surprised where it starts out. Jesus says to her, "Give me a drink." And this is a Samaritan woman, and she knows that she's one of the untouchables. And I'm surprised that Jesus didn't validate her and let her give him a drink and then talk about the living water. But it seemed that he kind of put her down, saying, well, you know, if you knew that I was, so it was a jar. I didn't expect that from Jesus, but that's the story. I mean, it was a setup, but nevertheless.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I love this so much. It's so odd. Other observations, words, maybe if you don't even understand them, words you heard or phrases.
Gift of God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It seems to me as though she's giving it back to him as much as he did. How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me?
Yeah.
There is an undercurrent there.
Yeah.
They had the same roots, of course, going back in history, but from what I know about Sumerians, didn't they worship Yahweh too, but they had broken off because many of them had been in Syria?
Yeah, one of the reasons I love this group of people, the Covenant class, the Noahs and I was telling them my secret that the Covenant class is my favorite group of people, is because people know stuff like this and make these observations. So also verse 12, are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well and with his sons and his flocks drank from it? So he's saying, you know, who do you think you are? And she's like, who do you think you are? And I love that she's not, at least initially, she's not intimidated by this guy. He should have brought his own dang bucket.
I think this from
Yeah.
In the I think there's a something peculiar to John's gospel in the way this conversation takes place, because in the passage when he's talking about being born again in John 3, there's also this kind of foolish interchange between what do you mean being born again? And how can anybody re-enter the mother's womb and be born again? I mean, I think there's a style, I think there's these dialogues in John have this kind of give and take, which creates tension.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's not, I don't know what that, I'm not able to grab the word that is. It's not humor exactly, but it is a kind of, it's playing on a kind of flat-footed literalism that then turns out to be truer than one could ever have imagined. That's a helpful observation. Thanks, Charlie. Well, one of the things that I have, one of the reasons that I chose the film that we're going to watch and this passage that goes along with it is because I think what the focus of today, liturgically and in worship today, seems like there's a lot of calling, recognizing, naming going on. And what you've got here in this passage seems to be these two figures are kind of working their way through what, at least the Samaritan woman, what she thinks she knows about the way things work at the well between Samaritans and Jews, between men and women, and working towards some kind of recognition of who this man is. What happens immediately after this passage when he says, when Jesus says to her, you know, describing the water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life. She says, you know, give me this water. And he proceeds to tell her, you know, more about this water, and also tells her about herself. One of the reasons why she was probably by herself, Pidge alluding to the fact that she had been shunned. This is a woman who has been married multiple times. When Jesus tells her that, she says, oh, surely you're a prophet. So she names him a prophet. And then she goes on to talk about how she's been expecting the Messiah. That's another naming, another label, but she's just kind of launched it out there into, you know, her realm of expectation. And then Jesus says, well, as a matter of fact, that's me. So I love the way that this passage moves from unfamiliar and kind of conventional encounter between this outcast woman and a stranger, and through this pretty long discussion back and forth with a little bit of, you know, joking and teasing or sass worked in there, they arrive at a kind of knowledge of one another. Jesus discloses herself to her and also discloses himself, and she recognizes him. It's just, I could just think about this one for the rest of the day. Any other comments about this story? And I know I'm not giving it its due, because it really is an amazing passage. So let's shift to today's feature, today's program. And now I am going to, this is a film called Busker. You may have seen this before, but, and Mary is excited to see this again. So if you haven't seen it before, just, you know, go with the flow. If you have seen it before, you are, again, you're in for a treat. And let me change my share to, let's see. Sorry, y'all. This is really.
favor.
Извини, да. Може да дойдеш и ти на сватбата?
Не.
Но айде ке засвириш малко и ти една песна.
Не, фала.
Те молам.
Не.
Но зошто?
Како, зашто па? Па нели ме гледаш? Јас ништо.
Сакам да дојдеш. Ајде. Ајде.
All right. Okay, everybody. Let's see. I want to go back to thoughts about how the busker and the woman that encounters Jesus at the well.
And I think we're seeing the wrong screen. We're seeing your Zoom screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't need to see that. Let's see, where did that go? Share. There we go. Thanks, Megan. Yeah, so you see this now, parallels.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so let's hear thoughts about parallels between the two of them, other things in the film that you notice that Echo represents.
They're both outcast.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Any more about the reason behind his being outcast? Do we get any?
Probably
texture on
homeless.
that?
I assume he was living in the empty shell of the building.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how does the film, without telling us anything really specific, how does the film kind of give dimension to his homelessness?
Well, have you ever been in an abandoned gym? And that's what it was. I mean, if you look at it with the floor like that, it's large, but it's dirty, and it's falling down. And that's what his life is, falling down.
How about that gym? I mean, what is a gym? What's that space? If it were in good condition.
Place of happiness, cheering, people together playing.
Lots of people together. Yeah.
You'd have a beautiful floor that had been refinished every year with gorgeous, bleachers that would have the colors of the school on them.
Yeah.
Instead, that was a derelict.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that's what he is or was.
The gym would be a place for physical activity. And the question is that related or not related to mental activity?
Say more about that.
The only thing I can think of is that a gym is a place where people exercise their bodies and may or may not exercise their minds. And this encounter is significantly a mental interaction.
I still want to know more, but I think there's some other folks who might want to jump in and embellish your comment.
Well, Brian James would argue that point.
And could we see each other now? I'm just getting 2 or 3 people.
Oh, John, can you navigate to the corner of where you see people, and you can stretch that screen?
Oh, you can.
No, I think you've got to get rid of your main screen and
give us some space.
Oh, I do. Okay. Will do. I will stop sharing.
There.
I will stop sharing.
That's nice. Thank you.
That better?
Yes.
Okay, good. Other thoughts then? Okay, John, now that you chimed in, bring the heat.
Well, the thing that struck me about the whole thing is whatever the setting, it is a setting which is intended to be so much apart from what we are used to. It could be Greece, it could be Portugal. I couldn't catch the language, but it's supposed to be an entirely different setting. So it breaks down our preconceptions.
Yeah.
What would it look like, for example, if it were set in Chicago or in Davidson? What would that kind of inclusive thing look like? I think maybe intentionally, I'm not sure of this by any means, but I think maybe intentionally we're set a culture apart so that we feel the dimensions of it in a different way.
Yeah, good. Good. Other thoughts about this? Maybe how the busker is reflecting the experience of the woman.
Well, when he takes a drink at the well, am I on?
Yes.
I guess I am.
You are.
Wait, if he takes a drink at the well, was that a symbolism for being open to what lay ahead for him? That his
tell
thirst,
us.
Well, I don't know.
You tell us. You tell us. Let's talk that out a little bit. I love that.
Well,
it's such a delicious little.
Okay. Well, if he took a little water and his thirst was quenched, and then he later went to the wedding. He took that risk and went to the wedding, and his life was enriched. So I guess that was kind of what I was thinking in the symbolism of it. that the water opened him up to more possibilities, perhaps, in his life. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the risk aspect is what struck me. Really, both the man and the woman took risk. He took the risk of going to the wedding and perhaps being rejected. I think she took some risk in inviting him to the wedding. Would he be accepted by all of her wedding party?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, the memory she had of her father or grandfather or whomever was playing,
yeah,
what I think allowed her to see his humanity.
Yeah.
Say more about that, Allison, please.
He was playing, and then in her mind, you went to a man who had a pipe rather than a cigarette, and I think that caused her to give him a second look, and that's when she turned around.
Yeah.
And the little girl was dancing. I think that might have been her.
Oh.
In her memory, she's dancing to the music. And I think that's what drew, music was the common bond between the two of them. And I'm not sure that they're both outcast. She seems to be on a higher social plane. You know, we see her being measured for her wedding dress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's having a wedding. It looks like a very, you know, more prosperous, normal life, whatever the culture. Agree with John, different cultures. And
I think you're talking about both outcasts. I was talking about the woman at the well and the busker.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Allison.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we're signaled in all kinds of ways that she is, you know, middle class and probably upwardly mobile. The way that she's dressed, the fact that she's having her dress made, the kind of professional, you know, bag that she's carrying, the fact that she gives him not just one coin, but she drops several coins in his bag. You know, it shows that she's moved by the music, by her memory, but also that she has that that extra money to share with him.
And she not only gives money, she compliments him on the music. And it struck me that he would not even look up and meet her face to face, you know, which I think was a signal of how much of an outcast he felt himself to be.
Yeah.
But I love the moment in the film when she says, "I see you." And to me, that gets to me, because it's not the first time she's seen him, but he has to get the message that indeed he has been seen for who he is. And if that's not Jesus, I don't know what is.
And what does he say immediately before that? Do you remember?
Don't you see me?
No. He says something and she contradicts him by saying, "I see you." Do you remember?
And I'm a nobody.
Look at me.
Look at me, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
Which really means, and was it Susan who just said his protecting himself really, and you know, being humble before her when she puts the money in his hat, not meeting her gaze, he is disappearing by doing that, and he is invisible, living in that abandoned gym. That water is not just that he needs that water. That water is helping him survive. It's not just a nice, you know, swazzle. He may hit that water fountain on a regular basis. That may be his only source of clean water. So he really is invisible. But she sees him. I see you. Yeah, it's a good one.
Anna, and I think
yeah.
it's interesting that the gender roles were reversed.
Yes, say more. Don't you mute that microphone. You say more.
Thanks for letting me join your Sunday school.
Hey, don't you help your grandmother. You make her answer this all by herself.
We just took note of that.
Yeah.
And we
I think it's
thinking
interesting
about it.
I think it's interesting too that she's a bride, and thinking about the Bible as a whole and the gospel story. That's kind of a metaphor that's used a lot. So,
ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen a Davidson College education at work. That is good. Yeah.
Grandmother.
So many layers of richness in this 5-minute film that we can keep going back to and thinking about again and again and again. Yeah, great. All right, now we're gonna go from the sublime to the slightly ridiculous, because somewhere I got the idea that we could learn a little bit about film while we are talking about these great little movies from Enlighten. So what I want us to do at the moment is think about the soundscape of this film. And if I can make my way to another screen to share for you, I will do that. Let me see. All right, and this is just about a minute or so.
I don't think we're seeing the video yet, Anne.
Okay, here we go. And
There we go.
so see what you can get out of this little bit of instruction.
Sounds in this particular clip, and of course the pauses and even the quiet spaces help create the dynamics of the scene. When you have sound and then when you have silence, silence is just an effective sound, as it were, than sound itself. I'm going to show you a list of every sound in this clip that one of my students made. Here it is. It's hard to believe that there are this many sounds, but there they
I should mention, he's talking about a scene we didn't watch because the scene is terrifying. But I wanted to give you kind of prime you to listen to our film again.
They are. The student who put this together listened carefully. I even think she missed a few. But just in 2 minutes, this is how important sound design is to movies. Now, in this list, you see 2 different categories, and this is something I want to bring up for you. There's a kind of sound that's part of the movie world that the characters or the things in the frame could hear. And then there's a sound that is not part of the movie world that only you, the movie watcher, can hear. These 2 kinds of sounds, these 2 levels, are called diegetic and non-diegetic. I bring up these terms only to give you a couple technical terms to play with. Diegetic sounds are sounds within the world of the movie. Whether it's sound effects, music, or dialogue, it's coming from within the movie world, and the movie should do a good enough job of signaling to you that it is coming from within the movie world. Whereas there are non-diegetic sounds like musical scores, for example, or voiceover narrators that are laid on top of a movie that nobody can hear in the movie world, only the movie viewers can hear them. Okay.
All right, so here's where your skills in using the chat, I'm going to call on those skills again because we're going to watch Busker again. But rather than paying so much attention to the visual part of the film, I'd like for us to focus on the audio, the soundscape, the sound design. You just heard the professor there talking about diegetic and non-diegetic sounds that are in the scene and sounds that are not part of what the characters themselves can hear. So try to pay attention to that distinction, because I think this film does some interesting things with that distinction. So does everybody know, just what I'd like you to do in the chat is just, what do you hear? You can put a word, a phrase, but keep it short so we can look at those together. And even if somebody has already noted the sound that you were going to put, go ahead and type it into the chat. Okay, and I'm not going to share, let's see, I guess I need to share I will share my screen. Hang on. I will share my screen, but don't feel like you have to watch my screen. The most important thing is to listen to the sound.
Хубаво. Извини, да. Може да дойдеш и ти на сватбата?
Не.
Но айде ке засвираш малко и ти една песна.
Не, фала.
Те молам?
Не.
Но зашто?
Како, зашто па? Па нели ме гледаш? Ясно. Нищо.
Сакам да дојдеш. Ајде. Ајде.
All right. Okay, you can keep adding.
Well, I kept writing them down, so I couldn't type it in, but I bet I found that nobody else would have picked up, and that was the snap of the tape measure.
I heard that.
When you close it up. Being a seamstress.
Yes.
Spoken, yes, spoken like a true needle crafter. Yes.
It's the pigeon apple.
Yes. So we have really obvious, you know, if we had watched this only once and I had asked you, what are some of the sounds that you hear in the film? I think there's some that we would have gotten. The accordion, we would have maybe, I mean, help me think. That's kind of what it seems like it's going to be focused on. But then when you listen and you get those tiny details like the measuring tape or the pencil scratching the numbers, the measurements onto the paper, even the splash of the water a couple of different times in the water fountain, and when he is busking outside and she comes by to give him some money.
Her heels walked outside. The click of her heels, but just a few.
Yes. Yes. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through these. Any others that jump out at you all?
I thought when he leaves the wedding, when he was walking down that aisle and he enters that street, his feet are dragging slightly on the cement as opposed to a steady walk. I thought that was telling. It's very subtle.
Yeah. Okay, good. And there's several of you who have noticed. Let's talk about that moment of silence. Can somebody say more about that?
I think the silence allows the viewer time to really think and put yourself in the same situation. At least that's what it does for me.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it signaled despair.
Despair.
Because his head was down. You know, he wasn't playing music.
Mm-mm.
I thought it mirrored his statement of he is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since we've moved through this whole landscape that's so rich in sound and in memory of sound. And then that jarring silence, and it's visually silent too. There's no movement and there's very little light. Yeah. Yeah, he's really not going to go to that wedding, right, Charlie? No. Yeah.
The sound is interesting at the end because you have the celebration music, and then as it pans on him, the music mellows at the end. It's the same music, but it mellows. It's like listening to a rock, a more mellow version of a rock song. You segue into it.
Uh-huh. How about the contrast between what the band at the wedding is playing and what he has been playing? One of the things that a filmmaker can do, which is obvious until we start thinking about it, and it's a choice that the filmmaker has made, that blaring saxophone and the drum that we hear even before we see it. If they had showed up at my wedding, it might not have gone anywhere. It might have been a very quick reception. But it's just so over the top and wild and squawky and noisy and celebratory. And they bring him on in.
Well, I think the fact that they were all outside, it made it easier for him to become a part. He wasn't, as they say, going through a door into a different situation. He was just adding to the circle.
And all of this indicates to me how artful the filmmakers are.
Yeah.
I don't want to say manipulative, but we're talking about things that we really probably did not notice per se when we watched it the first time, but they affected our mood and how we saw what we were seeing. I guess that's a molding or a shaping of the ethos of the movie that you really don't think about. Right. Until you're asked to think about it.
Until
but it's
some bat
effective.
comes along and makes you think about it. Yeah.
It's effective in conveying the message.
Yeah.
Eric and I are totally enjoying these movies because we have a grandson that just started college and his major is film. And you know what we all said about that. And now there's just so much to it that this has just broadened our whole understanding of what he's experiencing. And we have so much to talk about, but as his father says, sometimes just let me watch the movie. He's always
enough already.
Enough, but it's great.
In preparing for today, I'm sure this is a truism in filmmaking, but I kept running across this claim that 70% of what you see in a film is about what you hear. There are examples in YouTube, you can look at a scene that is accompanied by music from one composer and then look at the same scene with a different soundtrack, a different musical accompaniment, and it totally changes what you're feeling, what you're seeing. So y'all are right. Bill, you're absolutely right that this is, we could call it manipulation, but it's the layers of craft that are moving the viewer. The film is making an argument, and so the filmmaker is using all of these different tools to make sure that the argument carries. It's very powerful.
If anybody has seen Baby Driver, it's not only the soundtrack, but it's the rhythm of the soundtrack.
Baby Driver. You heard it here first.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Another Davidson education at work. I will look it up. Thank you.
Also, the value of a Davidson professor.
Busted.
Well, but by the same token, if Ginger loves the song Wild Horses that Boyle did on that, whatever, some Got Talent. But if you listen to the Rolling Stones version of it, she hates it.
Totally
but it's the same song and the same tune.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I don't remember the word that the professor used to describe the distinction, between what the audience hears and what the characters
Yes.
hear. But I felt like at the end, as the music kind of slowed down, we had the sounds that only we could hear, that the characters wouldn't have heard themselves.
Mhm. There's something, thanks, Allison. There's something really interesting that's way above my ability to grasp or interpret with the echo of sound, the sound that she remembers, maybe the sound that he's remembering, that flows through this whole film. And I would love to, think about that and kind of trace that more carefully and figure out what layer of meaning that is adding to our understanding.
If you go to a movie and then you look at, if you stay and watch all the
music credits,
you always look at them and you think, my God, did they really play all that music during this film? Where was it? But it's so subtle. It's a real craft. It's a real art.
Yeah.
Putting it together.
We need to stop, you all, and I will look forward to talking with you again next week and hope to see you again then. Hope that you all have a really good, safe week, and thanks so much. You all get an A today.
Let me just say,
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you,